I was wondering, what does the Bible say about tattoos?
About tattoos,
Yes.
Elizabeth. If you go back into the Old Testament, tattoos are identified with pagan religion. They were basically, in ancient times, people identified their deities with the use of tattoos. So the people of God were basically forbidden to have those in the Old Testament. The New Testament says nothing about that. So one could conclude in ancient times they were identified with paganism. There were certain things that pagans did, and God's people were to avoid doing the things that pagans did. They, even the Jewish people were required to dress a certain way, eat a certain diet, and avoid marks of paganism. So you could say, well, that was the standard in the Old Testament, but the New Testament doesn't say anything about tattoos, and that would be true. So I don't want to go so far as to say that tattoos are sinful. The New Testament doesn't say that. I could assume that you could have a tattoo of a cross or something that reflected your love for Christ, or some people get a Bible verse. I have to tell a funny story about a guy who got a Bible verse and they spelled the book of the Bible wrong on his chest. So that's not good. But the Bible doesn't really say anything about that. But my feeling is that in the ancient sense, it belonged to paganism. There would have to be a pretty compelling reason for me to do that. I wouldn't say it's wrong. I don't have a tattoo. But I don't want to go so far as to say it's wrong to do that. But it was part of what was pagan in the past. And it's a choice people make. I would personally rather be able to change my shirt every day and have something different than to have something I have to wear the rest of my life, every waking moment and sleeping moment. So just think about the reality of indelibly impressing something on you if you do that, and maybe down the road you might wish it wasn't there. That's the issue. But I don't want to say that in and of itself there's something wrong with that, because even the fashion has changed. You know, the Old Testament, women were not to wear what pertained to a man. But what did that mean in the ancient days? When men wore dresses. They wore robes. Women wore robes. So there wasn't a whole lot of difference there. I've heard people say, well, that's why women can't wear pants, because the Old Testament says they're not to wear what pertained to a man. Well, men didn't wear pants in the old time. So you've got to be careful with some of that, how far into this culture you bring that, okay? Just be thoughtful about that.
Yeah, thank you.